Hello and welcome to the Office of Financial Aid's parent webinar. So my name is Maura Hegley and I am an Associate Director in the Office of Financial Aid, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the financial aid process for your student going forward. I would like to start with our agenda. We have an overview of some key financial aid policies. They may be reminders, they may not be reminders, they might be new to you. We're going to talk about satisfactory academic progress, short name SAP, and how it affects financial aid and your student. We're going to talk about renewal deadlines for financial aid applications and application assistance, a little bit about verification documents. Then we're going to talk about some things to consider for rising sophomores that might be on the coming up that your students might be talking about. And then we're just going to talk about how to contact our office and what our coworkers are there for you. And then some question and answers if you have any. So diving right in, we have our financial aid policy reminders. We communicate directly with students via university email. So when your student was an interested applicant, we were communicating with the parents and the students, emails, phone calls, but now we're just directly through university email from our office. In order to be considered for financial aid each year, students must apply for financial aid. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. The financial aid is only for 1 year, so you have to keep that in mind. Some people think that they don't have to do it again, and then they're in a bad spot later on. So we want to make sure everybody knows they have to apply every year. Financial aid, this is an interesting thing. It doesn't process during the first and last week of each month. So this comes into play if you're looking to do a loan, perhaps to pay the balance. Loans have to be certified. So we get notified if you are approved for a loan. Our office has to certify that the student is enrolled, and then the loan can pend until it can process to pay. If you are doing an alternative loan or private loan, there is a 10-day waiting period. It's 10 business days before the funds can be released. If you're doing a federal loan, it has to be certified. It doesn't have that 10-day waiting period. But for both loans, if that payment time happens in the first week or the last week, it's not going to pay until after our reconciliation period is done. So when you're looking at getting your students' account up to a zero balance so that they don't have any holds on their accounts, you want to take that timeline into consideration for the loan and when you're doing the loans. So the sooner the better, we always say. Also, there's things like changes in enrollment status can affect a student's financial aid eligibility. For instance, if they go from full-time status to part-time status, they could potentially lose federal and or university grants and scholarships. So if they are looking in a semester and considering dropping classes or talking to their dean's office, they also should talk to the financial aid office and see how that can impact their financial aid. Okay, so to more reminders, when you call our office, you have to have handy your student's name, ID number, and their proxy passphrase. This is due to FERPA regulations. Our office works in conjunction with the bursar's office in using one passphrase so that when you call their office or the Office of Financial Aid, you have to have the proxy, it's the same proxy passphrase. If your student doesn't have a proxy passphrase for you, they can create one. If they forgot what it was, they can go back and sign in and see what they listed. They can list a parent, guardian, whoever they want, and they give a passphrase, and they let you know what it is so that we can speak to you in detail when you call our office with questions. And this is for FERPA regulations. Directions to do that are in their My.Fairfield account, so they can go in their account, type in proxy, and they'll have some options, and they'll see where the passphrase is and where the directions are for setting that up. So that's important. Otherwise, we don't want to be difficult. We just can't help you until we know that the student had given permission for us to speak to you. Also, student accounts. Any account that has an outstanding balance is subject to late fees and registration holds. This is done by the bursar's office, not the financial aid office, but we do get questions about it because it might be pending financial aid paying, and that's why their balance hasn't been paid. So if you have questions about the actual hold on the account or what the balance is, those should be directed to the bursar's office. students can set up a parent or guardian as an authorized user for the e-bill, and then they will get some of the notifications for the e-bills and when they go out. So the student can do that in their My.Fairfield account, and if they have questions about that, they should direct them to the bursar's office on how to set that up. Renewal awards. So renewal awards are made after spring semester grades are recorded and the GPAs are recalculated by the registrar's office. So this brings us to what happens at that point, and this is our satisfactory academic progress, known as SAP for short. So for students to be eligible for federal, state, or university need-based aid, they must be in good academic standing and must be making satisfactory academic progress towards a degree. So SAP is measured at the end of each academic year and is a measure of their pace of enrollment and their academic performance at that time. We have details about the SAP policy and process on our website, the financial aid website, if you want to read it in more detail. But we like parents to know that we do review it at the end of spring semester for the first time for our first-year students, that there's a qualitative and a quantitative measure of progress under federal regulation in addition to being reviewed for merit scholarship. So our office is tasked to monitor the cumulative GPA requirements for the merit scholarship renewal. We have merit standards for satisfactory academic progress. There's a cumulative GPA that they are required to meet in order for the merit scholarship to renew. It varies on the merit scholarship itself. The students would have been notified of what their merit scholarship was and what the cum GPA requirements are. That would have been in their offer letter that came from the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. So this time last year, if they do have a merit scholarship, that letter indicated what cum GPA they need to be meeting, and we're going to be looking at that at the end of spring semester this year. Federal satisfactory academic progress is a little different. So at the end of first year, students have to be meeting at least a 1.90 cumulative GPA or better in order to have any federal aid or university need-based aid. Between second and third year, they have to also be meeting at least a 1.90, and then at the end of their junior year, they have to be meeting at least a 2.0, and in addition to those GPAs, they have to have a completion of 67% of the classes that they attempt. So they have to keep that in mind, and that's for federal aid and university need-based aid. Of course, that would affect the merit because that would be below what the merit standard was as well. So with this satisfactory academic progress, in June, after all the grades are in and the cum GPAs are weighted, our office reviews who's meeting and who's not meeting the satisfactory academic progress. We notify students through mail and email if they are not meeting their satisfactory academic progress. In that notification, we indicate that there is an appeals process for a probationary semester, whether it's for the federal or their merit scholarship. And the appeals process is on our website. There's information about it in the letter that we send the students. All this communication, again, is done directly to the student. So we really encourage parents to encourage their students to read their emails, their university emails throughout the summer, open any letters from Fairfield University so that they're not missing out on important timelines and communications from our office. Once we receive appeals, they're due by July 1st. That's a hard deadline. We have an appeals committee that reviews the appeals, and we notify students by August 1st of the decision for whether they'll be granted a probationary semester of their merit and or federal aid. So with the appeal, there's an appeal form, there's a personal statement the student has to provide, and some appeals require an academic plan. So those would be the students that are not meeting the federal satisfactory academic progress of the 1.90 or the 2.00. So they would have to complete an academic plan. The academic plan is where the student has to make a plan with their assistant dean And it's about 3 pages. They have to itemize what steps they're going to be taking and what steps they need to support their academic success and their plan for the next semester. They talk about office hours or other support services that they might need. The plan gets reviewed, and it has to be signed off by the student and their assistant dean. So with that timeline they have to watch, it's due by July 1st, they have to take that into consideration and plan accordingly so that they make sure they get all the steps done and handed in by July 1st, whether they're doing conference calls with their assistant dean or how they're going to be working, getting that academic plan done. And if they have questions about what they need to provide for an appeal, they can contact our office, and we'll be happy to guide them through that. Okay, so for a little changeover, we're going to talk about financial aid deadlines. And this is critical if you want to be considered for financial aid for the next academic year. So each year, students have to apply for financial aid by completing the financial aid applications, which are the FAFSA and the CSS profile. They have to complete it by the stated deadline, which is currently April 15th. So ding, 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 tax day, financial aid application day. It's kind of one and the same. If your student only receives a merit scholarship and they don't want to be considered for federal aid or university need-based aid, then they don't need to complete the financial aid applications. If they would only like to utilize federal financial aid and not university aid, then they only need to complete the FAFSA, which is for federal aid. If they want to apply for university need-based aid and or federal aid, then they have to do both applications, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, and submit it by April 15th. It's no exceptions for that. If they have questions on it, they can let us know. We have communication posters like this one that are posted in my.fairfield. They're posters in the dorms. We communicate with students as best we can about the deadline as a reminder. It's on our website. It's not hidden anywhere, but yet amazingly students have no idea. So we're trying very hard to reach out to families to let them know that there is a deadline of April 15th. With this deadline, we have a timeline that if it's submitted by July 1st, after April 15th, students will be put on a wait list for consideration of university need-based aid as funds permit. If it's submitted after July 1st, then there's no eligibility for university need-based aid. So get those aid apps in on time. The FAFSA and the CSS profile are now open as of October 1st for the next academic year. So every year you can do this really early. And since it's based on the taxes from the prior year, so for instance, you're going to be doing the aid applications for the 2021 academic year. It's going to be based on 2018 tax information. So you would have had that information because those taxes would have been filed by April 15th of the prior year. Same thing for next year. So when you're looking at the following year, you can do these aid applications as soon as October 1st for their junior year. Any questions about that? Let our office know. We try to help students as much as possible, which brings us to the application assistance. If students and families are struggling with how to complete the aid apps, they did it wrong before, they're confused, they make appointments, come to our office, meet with the financial aid counselor, and we'd be happy to help. We just ask that the students have their FSA ID number or their College Board ID number and passwords and their 2018 tax information so that we can help them with the aid applications. And they can set up an appointment as long as it's before April 15th, and we'd be happy to help them. We have some students selected for verification every year or randomly selected by verification, and document requests are emailed to the students in the early summer. So again, remind your students to check their university email. They can also go into their my.fairfield account and see required documents listed for the 2021 academic year. Once we have all the documents, it typically takes us 8 weeks to finalize verification. The verification documents are due by August 1st. I do like families to note that once we start reviewing the files, sometimes we find we need additional documents. So your student may check their My.Fairfield, looks like they submitted everything, we're not asking for anything else, and all of a sudden they're getting an email or they go on there and they see that what is this other document you need? You didn't tell me. it might be that we just discovered that now we need, oh, you have another sibling in college, we're going to need a sibling enrollment form for them. So as we review the applications, it might change or add to what we might need to see. So any questions about that, you can let us know. But again, check the student email, have them check their My.Fairfield account so they know what documents we are requesting for them. So things to consider for rising sophomores. What's new this year is that their financial aid award notification is going to be emailed to them in early June. So those grades are in at the end of May. The GPAs are recalculated. We review for satisfactory academic progress. We see who's completed financial aid applications, and then we calculate their financial aid eligibility and post their awards in their My.Fairfield account, and then we email the student that the financial aid awards are posted to their account. So as an incoming student, they got a paper letter, they got a paper award, and they didn't have access to the system. So now going forward, it's all going to be through email communication and through their portal. So we like you to remember, check again. If they haven't said anything about their award, remind them early June that it should be posted. You can always check with our office and we'll let you know if it's posted or not, but it is something that the students will have access to directly. If your student's considering studying abroad, if they're starting to talk about that, we like students to check with our office to see if there's any policies regarding financial aid eligibility for study abroad that they need to be aware of. If they're looking for summer, if they're looking for full semester, it can affect eligibility, financial aid eligibility. So we need to advise students properly. So we like them to make an appointment or stop by our office or email us so we can guide them through that process. And summer classes. So if they're considering a summer class or summer classes and they have financing questions, have them contact our office. There's no university grant money for summer classes, but they might have other eligibility or they might be looking at loans. So we're happy to guide them through that, and the sooner the better. Summer class registration's already begun, so if they're looking to do that or even in the future, have them check with our office for any questions about that. And we have our contact information here. So this is our office. We have regular business hours, Monday through Friday. We have an on-call financial aid counselor every day that's available for any drop-in appointments, phone calls, we have a lot of walk-ins. So anybody that needs assistance, we make sure that there's somebody available that day. We do break down the financial aid counselor assignments by alpha. So if you look at there, you can see what our current listing is and assignments for who your student is by last name, so who their financial aid counselor is. They can reach out to them directly, and they can stop by and meet with an on-call counselor or make an appointment with their individual counselor if they so prefer. If you're sending documents to our office via email, don't email the counselor directly. Email our secure financial aid email that's on that page. You can fax, you can mail, but you can scan an email, but make sure it goes to the financial aid email. And let's see, we have appointments available right now, so anybody that has questions, we do phone appointments if it's too far for you to come in. If you have questions about next year, we are happy to help. So thank you. And if anybody has any questions now, I think you can type them in and ask.
Great. Thank you so much for all the helpful information. We do have a couple questions for you. The first one is, can you talk about the work study process a little bit? So how do students qualify for work study, find out that they have it available to them, and then how do they go about finding jobs on campus that are for work study students?
Multi-question.
Yes.
So to be considered for federal work study, they have to have done a FAFSA, and they have to be federally eligible. So when we get the application, we determine their eligibility for a federal work study award. Students, it works like they can earn up to that amount. So if they accept the award in their My.Fairfield account, they then have access to view the federal work study job listing. It's in their My.Fairfield, and they'll apply for the jobs directly from that job listing. They can follow up with the supervisors. There's jobs all across campus. We usually have more jobs available than actual work study students. Typically, the jobs are between 5 and 10 hours a week. It's minimum wage for most positions. There are some off-campus positions that are considered community service. That's a little bit different rate. And we're constantly adding new off-campus and on-campus departments for work-study positions. If a student had a work-study award for their first year and they declined it or didn't get hired because they wanted to wait and see how their schedule was going to allow for that kind of extra time, and now they're interested in work-study or they want it for next year, they should contact our office, because if they hadn't used it or accepted it the first year, they won't necessarily be offered it for the second year, but they may still be eligible. So they should contact our office. If they're not eligible at that time, based on funding, we could put them on a wait list for consideration once everybody else is in place, and then we can see what other funds we have available. So it's fluid. It's a work in progress. We have a lot of students that didn't work first semester are just getting hired now, or people that are studying abroad, and then they come back and they have a job for one semester only. So it's a very fluid process.
Great. Thank you. So we have someone asking if you can just clarify where a student goes to set up a proxy passphrase if they haven't already done that.
Okay, so it's in their My.Fairfield. They can type in the search proxy, and it will give them the little icon. They click on it, and that's where they'll be able to see the proxy passphrase setup. They can go right in there and see if they already had created one, and they'll assign, is it which parent or which guardian, the name of the person that they're giving permission to, and what the passphrase is. So the passphrase, it can be anything. Usually it's an actual phrase. I love pizza, my dad's great. We've had all different ones like that that are easy to remember. But sometimes people forget, and their student did have one. They can change it if they want to. They can add people. They can take people off. But it's in the My.Fairfield portal.
Great, thank you. So you mentioned the April 15th deadline for filling out all the different forms. Can you share if there's any edits or changes to the forms that people should anticipate as they're filling them out from when they did it last year?
The forms are a little bit different just because the tax form for the 2018 was different. The applications, the FAFSA, and the profile are still required, but some of the language and how they ask the questions there's no more exemptions on the taxes, so that question's taken off, and there's other questions that they're going to ask about schedules, because now we have Schedule 1 and 2 and 3. We had a 1040A and an EZ, and now we don't. So it's only changed in that it's following how the tax code has changed.
Great, thank you. We did have a follow-up question about the proxy passphrase. So,
good.
Is there anything that needs to be different to speak to the bursar's office, or you said
It's
that's
the same
passphrase?
passphrase, so you're setting it up for both the financial aid office and the bursar's office, yeah, which is helpful because it's too many passwords to remember, so we're trying to make it as easy as possible.
Great, thank you. So we do have one more question. I would encourage anybody else who's watching right now that wants to ask a question live to type it in the chat box on YouTube or email financial aid after the webinar. But can you talk about how, if anything, withdrawing or taking a medical leave can affect a student's financial aid?
It can, and it depends on how the withdrawal is identified, so, and what time period it's identified in. So if they are withdrawing before the semester starts, is very different from withdrawing when you're in the middle of a semester, because there are certain rules, if there's federal aid, and there's percentages for how long a student's been enrolled in the school, that we work with the bursar's office and the dean's office and how the withdrawal looks in the system. So federal funds, students may still have a financial responsibility. Portion of the loans that paid out, if they're taking federal loans, then they're going to have a portion that they are still having to pay back, because it's a point in time and when they're withdrawing. So that's very important for families to communicate with our office on withdrawals, so that we're a part of the discussion, so they know what to expect.
Wonderful. So that's all the questions that we have right now. So thank you for watching. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Office of Financial Aid.
Thank you.